Okay, I think we're going to get going. So again, thank you all for coming. I know it's the end of an RF, so it's always difficult to get everyone's attention. So we really appreciate today. We're going to be discussing this topic of RFID as a key enabler of omnichannel success. My name is Francisco Melo. I lead the RFID business for Avery Dennison. And over the years, our team has been working on sort of developing, I would call, innovative solutions and approaches to help facilitate RFID adoption in multiple fronts, certainly apparel and footwear being one of the primary ones, working with key brands and retailers such as Adidas and Lululemon, that we're obviously very proud to be a partner with. A lot has been said about the consumer evolution and how consumer behavior has evolved, and consumers are today sort of more informed, more connected, and as a consequence of that, more demanding. And the more we talk with retailers about the challenges they face today, one of which is, I mean, how do I cope with that? So people don't just buy in store, they buy on their mobile, they buy online, and everything is totally, truly interconnected. I think the fundamental thing we'll be discussing today is how does that sort of link into a true enablement of the omnichannel piece. We believe RFID is a foundation for that. So whether it's inventory accuracy and visibility, or simply put, I know what I have and where I have it, that's the foundation to enable omnichannel success. And that's literally what we're going to be hearing from the panel, with insights from their experiences, why they're doing it. And I'll be sort of facilitating a conversation. It's going to be truly a conversation where the panel is going to be, I'll be directing some questions to the panel, but then they'll be engaged in a conversation. At the end, I'll also reserve 15 minutes or 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how I manage to facilitate the panel for questions from the audience and ideas and everything else. So with that, I would like to invite the panelists to introduce themselves. Must just add that this is quite a distinguished panel. It has a unique experience of both hands-on experience of RFID adoption as well as research experience. So with that, Bill, would you mind just to say a few words?
Thank you, Francisco. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to attend the session. My name is Bill Hardgrave. I'm the Dean of the Harbert College of Business at Auburn University. For more than a decade now, I've had the opportunity to work very closely with retailers and brand owners and others in the RFID space, primarily looking at deployment of RFID and the business value of RFID, starting with Walmart's early implementation in 2003 all the way through current times, and with retailers across the U.S., Canada, South America, and Europe. And really with that focus, again, just on how we extract that business value. I started the RFID lab at the University of Arkansas, and we moved it to Auburn a few years ago, and continued to operate the lab as a testing facility on tag performance testing, and working with a lot of folks on coming through how does the technology work, demonstrating the use cases, and then working out in the field with helping, again, retailers and brand owners understand what that business case is for RFID.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Aitken, and it's nice to see some friends of mine in the audience. I am the director of IT for Lululemon in terms of retail, so I work for the CIO, and I'm also the program director for RFID across our various brands and stores that we have within Lululemon. I've been working with RFID since late 2014 when we had a pilot running, and I was the project and program manager for RFID as we rolled it out across North America and Asia. And we've been running RFID successfully since the previous holiday. So we've gone through 2 holidays with RFID, and I can tell you that you go into any Lululemon store that has RFID, which is everyone in North America, and they say they can't live without it. And that is really a testament to what the power of it does. The employees that have been there for more than 2 years have horror stories of how they used to have to restock their floors. So they really love it, and they really like the project and everything that's happened since then, because really what it does is it allows all of our stores to be even more successful. So.
Hi, my name is Tobias Steinhoff from Adidas. I'm leading the business solutions team for direct-to-consumer and franchise. We are building business capabilities for our retail stores mainly. RFID is obviously one of the technologies, but there's others like merchandise planning, forecasting, replenishment, and others. In RFID space, I've actually been involved since about 2 years. In that, we've successfully deployed RFID in one of our big markets. And similar feedback, it's been very, very positive in terms of business results, but also feedback from stores and whoever's using the technology. So happy to be here, and thanks for joining.
Excellent. Thank you, Toby, and thank you all. And Jonathan, you said that you had 2 holidays with RFID. I have all my holidays with RFID. With that, I mean, we've seen significant momentum in the industry across sort of adoption across the board, and I think the performance segment in itself, again within apparel and footwear, it's sort of a sweet spot of that. I mean, Bill, any perspective why we seeing that happening? Any sort of perspective of what you're seeing out there?
Well, I mean, the simplest answer is it's customers are demanding it. As for the retailers and the brand owners in the room, you know that customers are really unforgiving if you don't have what they have when they want it and in the place that they want it. And so it's really their actions that are driving that. And of course, the key to having knowing what you have and where you have it is with high inventory accuracy. And in our work with retailers, again, this is across lots and lots of retailers, and not just in the U.S. but worldwide, is that inventory accuracy, especially in the stores, is terrible. And for the retailers in the room who aren't using RFID and you think your inventory accuracy is not terrible, you're kidding yourself. If you look at it on a customer-facing perspective, and that's the key. Don't look at it on a financial perspective. It's on a customer-facing, because if you have, and let me just give an example, and I'll try not to take too much time. But really, we want to look at it on a SKU level because that's what the customer cares about, right? If you have 100 towels, and 10 are blue and 10 are green, and so forth, from a financial perspective, you need to know you have 100 towels. But from a customer-facing perspective, you need to know that you have 10 in green, 10 in blue, and so forth. And the inventory accuracy issues for the retailer happen at the SKU level. And that's the customer-facing level, and that's what the customer wants. So I would challenge the retailers in the room, if you're not looking at it on a SKU level, you must look at it on a SKU level, because that's what the consumers are demanding at this point. And so what we generally see is somewhere around 60 to 65% inventory accuracy at the SKU level. And again, that's across a lot of different retailers. We've seen some as bad as 28%. Yeah. And they're still in business. Yeah. Remarkably. And some in the 70s, but spent a lot of time and effort and people getting there and trying to keep it there. Now, on the backside of this, as we've seen more retailers coming into RFID, getting that inventory accuracy up, we've seen the adoption increase. And one of the things that we do is we take a snapshot each June of the previous 12 months adoption. And by the way, all of our research and our analysis of industry is available on our website for free. And feel free, it's rfid.auburn.edu. You can go out there and download all those papers. But we've seen in this past analysis about a 30% increase in the number of retailers, and this is a U.S. analysis, by the way, that have started somewhere down the RFID path from a proof of concept all the way up to full deployment. We're seeing about 40% of the companies in the about 30% of the companies or so in the proof of concept, another 25% or so in the pilot stage, and 40% and above in that phased deployment into full deployment. So very healthy adoption. Adoption has accelerated over the last couple of years, and I think we'll continue to see that.
Excellent, thank you, Bill. Any perspective from Jonathan, Toby? I mean, Toby, in particular, with your sort of latest deployment, anything you'd like to emphasize on how that's gone and what you're seeing in terms of the sort of a differentiation element as Adidas is using RFID for that purpose?
Yeah, we spoke last year at the NRF and we're just about to start the mass rollout in Russia. And I'm actually very, very happy to state that we are live with about 450 stores in Russia. So big kudos to the local team, Emil from Russia sitting in the audience, but also to all the partners for making that happen. So it was a 9-month rollout, 450 stores. and fully live. I think in terms of differentiation, Bill alluded to that in terms of stock accuracy, which was a big driver for us. So the main, and then differentiation to fixing the basics. So stock accuracy was one for us, but also then on-floor availability, and how do we make sure that the product that is in the shop, in the stock room, is also then displayed on the shop floor. So on-floor availability was the second piece that we've been looking at, and we've been implementing planograms to actually make sure that we replenish our stock properly. So that's differentiating to getting the basics right, I'd say. I think we're doing some other things in Russia, like DC inbound and outbound, but the first two are the main drivers for us and how we see differentiation on basically satisfying consumer demand where they want the product.
That's great. Appreciate it. Thank you. I mean, Jonathan, any perspective from you? I mean, is that common with your primary objective as you went into RFID as well? I mean, any insights you can share with the team on how you saw that and your team saw that?
Our primary objective was guest experience, right? And like you said earlier, the best way to make a guest happy is to give them, as many choices as possible, allow them to have what they want when they want it. So when we first started the RFID project, we did the calculation that there was at least 250 items, so SKUs, going back to Bill's point, SKUs that were in the back but were not on the floor. So at any time, we're a vertically integrated retailer. We typically have 15,000 items in the store at any time, all sizes, all colors, different size ranges for men's and women's. But in our storefront, because it was being manually restocked, kind of on an eyeball process, that two people would be talking on phones to each other. Yes, I've got this, no, I've got that, whatever, back and forth. It would take them a long time to get the store ready, and then they pretty much got to a point and said, well, people are starting to come into the store, so we're going to stop restocking. Now, we restock all the time. We know exactly what we need to do, and typically the amount of products that we have on average that need to be restocked is 25, and so that's like 90% better than it was. And if you walk into a store and it's more than that, they're actually actively working through it. So yesterday I was watching, and the restock level went down to 30, and that popped up to 250 because there was a massive amount of people came into the store, and then it dropped back down again as they were restocking, and we were watching it live. So the ability to have that accurate inventory, but reflected in the store, in the front of the store, instead of being buried in the back, is great. In addition to that, then we can leverage RFID technology. All of our educators have handheld devices called a back room, but that back room is an endless aisle app, but it also allows them to check in-store inventory without having to leave to go to the back room. So they just pull out the device, they scan the barcode of what they're looking for, they can say, we have a bigger one, we have one in a different color. Usually it's actually on the floor, but if for some reason it's not, they can say, yeah, we've got another one in the back, I'll go get it, I know it's there. Or I know that it's completely sold out here, but we have another store 2 miles away and they have 5 of them. So if you hurry, you can go get it, or if you want, we can call and get it for you right now. So the ability to know that, 100% accuracy, is fantastic. In addition to that, we have iPhone apps for our guests, iPhone and Android, so they can actually do the exact same thing themselves. Take a picture of the barcode, look up the inventory, all without ever actually even having to talk to anybody. Obviously, we'd prefer you talk to you, because then we can sell you on the product, but you can do it completely on your own.
That's awesome. So I think you just said, I mean, being 90% better than what you were, it's very significant from that perspective. And is that evolution from, well, I need to know what I have in my store so I can satisfy my guests as they go into my store, into that sort of broader picture of omnichannel? I mean, are you making an evolution from that lens in terms of how you're taking that data?
Our goal was always setting up for omnichannel, and we spent a lot of time, my predecessor and our strategy team and our future operations team, talking to Bill, talking to other people, and saying, look, what do we need to do to be set up for omnichannel success? 2 years ago at NRF, our CIO sent a bunch of the IT directors and VPs out in New York to do omnichannel transactions. Buy online, pick up in store, order from the store, and have it shipped. About 70% of them failed. And I thought that was mind-blowing. So they went to the store to order it, it wasn't there, the store couldn't find it, or they ordered it and they thought, great, I'll be able to pick it up tomorrow in the store, and then 2 hours later they got, oh, sorry, we're canceling your order. I mean, that's like a terrible, terrible guest experience. So now with our ability, we've turned on Omnichannel in over 80 stores in North America. Our order cancellations on a bad week, it's 4%. On a good week, it's less than 1%. So people who have Omnichannel without RFID, their bad weeks are 20, 30% or more. So it's huge.
That's great. Appreciate you sharing that.
Just one addition to that, maybe also from the Russia experience that I didn't mention before, but it was also to get the RFID enabled in store, and then once that's been deployed, let that follow by some of the omnichannel fulfillment models that we've got, like buy online, pick up in store, or ship from store. So that's been also an integral part on turning that on once you had the stock accuracy.
Right, so get your stores right, and then use that information to enable the broader sort of omnichannel ability.
Totally agree with Toby. Like year one, just get RFID, get it bedded down, get it working, get the kinks out. Year two, build on that and get omnichannel.
You know, and the key there, you ask about differentiation. You know, that the year one or that base, ultimately that's not the differentiator. Right. It's what you do with that. You know, high inventory accuracy. If you have high inventory accuracy, but you don't enable processes, if you don't use it to execute better in your stores, if you don't use it to enable buy online, pick up in store, then you're really not going to see a lot of value just inherently from that. It's ultimately what you do with it. And I think both of you have done a fantastic job of layering on top of that.
The challenge for you guys is to convince your CFO and your head of FP&A, I got to spend 5 cents more per tag, and I have to spend $8 to $10 or $20,000 per store, whatever it takes to get RFID going. Because that's not an insignificant amount of money, especially if you have a huge fleet. But we figured we already paid for RFID in one season. So, I mean, nobody really wants to sign up for those numbers on a sales lift, and I'm not going to tell you what I think they are because I got a warning not to say that today, but you can't. Nobody wants to sign up for it, but we all know we had great sales the last two peaks, and we really think that a lot of it contributed to actually, what a surprise, having enough product on the floor for people to buy rather than being hidden in the back.
It's great. Thanks for the insights, Jonathan and the team. Just switching gears a little bit, Toby, I know that you guys at Adidas were looking at the Net Promoter Score and how sort of RFID is impacting that measure. So can you tell us a little bit about that, what you're measuring, and what are those sort of key critical factors onto that?
Yes, sure. In many of our stores, we are measuring experience Net Promoter Score. So we ask our consumers how likely they are to recommend the store to someone else. And over the years, there's a couple of detractors or detracting factors that we've identified. And I'm just going to mention the top three, which would be assortment width. So what product am I offering? And is the consumer disappointed if he's looking for a tennis product, but that might not be ranged in the store? Obviously not related to RFID per se, but through Omnichannel, you could cater for that.
Right.
The second one would be the assortment depth. So what's the size availability in store? And then also consumer service. Some comments came out like, oh, well, maybe service isn't fast enough, or some other things. So that was the top three detractors for us that we've identified over the past few years. So in other words, like I think, Bill, you mentioned that earlier, right product, right place, right time. So if you use RFID for that, obviously you can get the Net Promoter Score up. So on-floor availability for us has a direct correlation with size availability on the shop floor and stock accuracy overall as well. So what we've seen that correlation between that, and I think also in terms of consumer service and speed to service, we are operationally a little faster with RFID if it's integrated into the point of sale. That's helping us to get the consumer experience up. So from our perspective, it's fair to say that RFID is having a positive impact on the experience Net Promoter Score. So that's been very positive for us.
Excellent. Thank you, Toby. Back to Dr. Hardgrave, Bill, you've presented a number of sort of research findings that your team has worked on around the sort of the impact RFID can have on those strategies that both Toby and Jonathan mentioned around whether it's ship from store, buy online, pick up in store, and the impact. the challenges basically that those strategies pose to retailers and how RFID can help. Can you share some of those insights with us?
Yeah, let's talk about both of those, the buy online, pick up in store and ship from store, which we believe are two fundamental pillars of omnichannel, right? You've got to be able to do those things in today's environment. And I'll just give you a couple of things that we've seen in both those areas. And one is buy online, pick up in store. And I'll go back to what we talked about with inventory accuracy, right? If you don't know what you have in your store, then how do you make that available to your customer regardless of the channel, right? Again, keep in mind, omni-channel means that they can get it in any way they want it, right? It could be on their phone, it could be on their computer, it could be in the store, it could be however the customer wants it. So if you don't know what you have, how do you have confidence in telling the customer what you have? Well, the reality is you don't. And in most cases, what we see in the absence of RFID is that retailers use buffers to shield that customer from their inventory, from the retailer's inventory accuracy. So, for example, if there is it's a product that the retailer has fairly high turns, and there's 5 products that it shows in the store, they may tell the customer who's trying to buy it from home or on their mobile phone, they may show that there's no inventory available because they don't trust their own inventory, and you don't want to send that customer to the store and then it not be there, right? You don't want to disappoint that customer. So you build in these artificially high buffers, and therefore you lose all the benefits then of omnichannel. And I'll share with you some numbers from one retailer, for example, and what that buffer means at the SKU level. When using a buffer of just 2 for this one particular retailer, 60% of the SKUs were hidden from the online consumer. 60% just by using a buffer of 2. When they changed that buffer to 1, then another 20% was revealed. So now they revealed 60% of their SKUs. And then when they removed that buffer altogether, of course, then they revealed 100% of the SKUs that they truly had in stock. That is huge, right? I mean, you're not selling anything, or you're restricting what you can sell to that consumer that's outside the store. And keep in mind that for those consumers who come to the store for buy online, pick up in store, the industry averages are over 25% for making an unplanned purchase. And I heard, it was either read in the Wall Street or heard on NPR a few days ago from JCPenney, for example, in this past holiday season, and they were talking about 40% of their customers who came in for buy online, pick up in stores bought something unplanned. So you not only miss out on that sale that you would have had, but you miss out on the unplanned purchases as well. So you really got to have high inventory accuracy to enable that channel. The other one I'll mention very quickly is ship from stores, and that's certainly optimizing the sourcing of your product to your consumer. And for many, with a lot of square footage, footprints, stores all over the U.S., it's really using that store as mini fulfillment centers. Great idea, but if you don't know what you have, right? And so the idea is somebody orders something online, the central office then decides, okay, these 3 items should be sourced from this store and these 2 and so forth, right, to optimize it. What we have found, and this is anecdotally, but across a few retailers now who have tried this without RFID, the pick rate in their own stores, right? So they're shopping their own stores. And so you think, okay, the associates know where things are at and what you have. The pick rate is around 35%. Wow. 35%. And so they pick a third of the items that they should. So if it's a 3-item order, they pick one of those items. Then it has to roll to the next store for the next day. They pick one of the 2 items. It rolls to the third store for the third day. Well, first of all, you may have lost your order at that point, or the consumer is at least not happy. The Net Promoter Score is certainly not going to be good in a situation like that. And you have and we've got an analysis on this. Again, it's available on our website. Pretty simple analysis that shows in that scenario with a pick rate success of 35% and a typical time to look for product and so forth, that from high inventory accuracy, where you would pick all 3 items accurately, where you'd make $11.50 on this particular order, with a 35% pick rate and having to roll it 2 days, you now lose $2 on that order. So that's huge, and I've talked to retailers who say, we can't make money in omnichannel. Well, right there's why.
It's interesting.
It's great. Thanks, Bill, for those insights. I'll just add, for those of you that attended the keynote from Intel CEO, Carrie Ask, I believe, from Levi, shared that. She said, well, we have less traffic in the stores, but we actually have more conversion. Mm-hmm. Why is it more conversions? Because most of the people going into a store, they know exactly what they want. So if you don't convert, you have less traffic, higher conversion. If you miss that conversion, then it's a totally missed sales, and that's links back to what Bill was highlighting. So I'll probably pause here. I have a number of other topics here that I can just continue talking with these guys for hours. I'll probably open up to the audience to have questions, ideas, comments, and then we'll take it from there. There's going to be a mic going around, I guess. Yes, please. Is there a mic? Yeah, I think there is a mic coming. Is this one mic? Mic came. I think I've introduced the mic earlier than expected, so we're just working through it. Thanks, Liz. Appreciate it.
Who had the question?
Arthur.
So this question is for Dr. Hardgrave. I think when RFID first came out, it was thought of as like a security kind of intervention, mm-hmm. and then it's evolved into kind of an inventory management product, SKU level. What's the next evolution of it, do you think? Would you like to make a prediction?
Well, I actually had a conversation earlier today about how to build the business case around RFID, and it's really not a case of trying to eat the apple with one bite, right? Sometimes we look at, and you start with, what is your pain point, right? And for many it was loss prevention, and that was one of the four, what we call the four big use cases, right? It was inventory accuracy, out of stocks, locating product, and loss prevention. And because all retailers faced those four problems. For some, loss prevention was the big one. For others, it was out of stocks. And although inventory accuracy ended up being kind of a foundational one. So the key there with RFID is that, let's say loss prevention is a big problem for you, right? Great. Start attacking that problem using RFID, but RFID then solves these other problems as well. So the business case then becomes an aggregation of those use cases and not a one-off type thing. And so we're really seeing retailers and brand owners understand and take that approach, right, of what use cases are we going to solve, and then we aggregate those. And then, again, I love what these guys have done is once you then solve those foundational problems, then how do you layer things on top of that differentiates you and create that ultimate customer experience, right? And so where I see the future going there from a use case perspective is, I personally think in a few years, we're not going to be talking about inventory accuracy and some of these other things, because if you don't have high inventory accuracy, you're going to be in a world of hurt, right? So that's just table stakes. And what's going to set retailers apart is, what do they do with that, right? How do they truly enable that experience that you can't get from other retailers? And it's tough, but it is the way I think that we'll see going forward. You guys you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I think going back to your initial question around what's the next step, I think it's analytics.
Yeah. So
where did that product go? How many times did it go into the fit room? How many times did it go back on the floor? How many times that bought and then returned? Like, there's some fascinating data. I mean, there's so much data. Yeah. I've watched one tag in one store in Edmonton move back and forth, and it's wild, right? It's like, I don't know if I would want to buy that product. Hopefully, why did they return it? But I mean, there's so much information there, and how do you know the answers to those questions? I mean, big data, right? Everyone's heard big data. I'm sure you've heard a lot about analytics, but in my mind, I would love to see, how can I combine the power of the RFID tag on the product, the power of the MAC address on a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi sensor, with guest wireless or whatever, so I know who's walking around, what they're walking around in, how often they've been in this store. There's a ton of ability to do things like that. There's a lot of people selling analytics today, but nobody's really talking RFID analytics yet, right? There's a little bit, and it's starting to evolve, but there's so much more to go.
Are you suggesting then converting that into a sale, like in a moment?
Potentially. I mean, maybe there's somebody who's been by a few times, right? And they're kind of looking at that product. If you could know that, maybe there's a way that you could do, hey, you know, discounting. I mean, Lululemon typically doesn't do a lot of discounting. We're more, hey, you better buy it because it may be gone tomorrow, right? So, but depending on the type of business model you have, that might be actually something you could do. Or do even couponing or 2-for-1 bundling, right? So there's lots of opportunities there, I think.
That's great. Thank you.
Maybe one additional point is, I mean, when you walk around here, the consumer experience by using RFID as a gateway to digital consumer experience. That's not 5 years from now. That's now, but that's also use cases that are powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of merging that experience you have online with the experience you can have in the physical world. So how you merge those two spaces and you know, that suggestion you are used to have from your online retailer, all of a sudden you're in the physical space, and that physical space is making those same suggestions and those same support, and it knows it's you, and it just builds from there. So I think the consumer experience piece will be an important element.
Can I just riff on one thing that he was saying? So content is so important if you're trying to do RFID as a digital experience. We've got somebody in this audience, I'm looking at him right now, who was working with me on a pilot to do RFID tags, take them into the fit room, not to see the in and out of the fit room, but to present a little bit more of a story, videos, photos, you know, images. And the challenge that we had was we need to get brand to buy in, now we need to get operations to buy in, and especially if you're changing your product a lot. So we're continuing that conversation, we're trying to figure out what's the next step. Everybody's heard of the Rebecca Minkoff mirror, I'm sure. If you haven't, go read about it, it's pretty cool. There's lots of other people who are doing something similar, and that's taking the RFID tag. Shoe people are taking the RFID tag, go in front of a mirror. There was Aptos had a display on that today. So there's lots and lots of possibilities just to figure out, but you got to manage the content.
That's great, thank you. You can also go by the Avery Dennison booth, by the way, there's one there. So. Please.
I was wondering if you could speak to your operational learnings from your RFID deployments. What was surprising to you? What was unexpected that you wished you knew then that you know now?
So many stories. We don't have enough time. Let's see. I think with all things, you really need to pilot it well and make sure that you know what you should do. Some of the things that surprised us is how much really old inventory we had in our stores. And once we started tagging it up, we're like, wow, we have those shorts from 5 years ago. I didn't know that, you know, because they were buried, and they were similar looking in color, but they were buried at the bottom, but they had a different SKU. And then we were running reports and seeing things. So I think Bill said this quite a few times, RFID shines a spotlight or a flashlight on the processes in your stores. And we realized how bad some of our receiving processes were, how bad some of our shipping processes were. So we've changed a lot of that. We've done a lot of integrations to make those better. But it's not an overnight thing, right? You know, we have processes, bad processes at our DCs, some bad processes at our vendors. So like all those things, now we know exactly what happened and when it happened, and you know, we can trace it all back. So I don't know.
That's great.
I would agree to that point also in terms of how cross-functional it is and what teams in the back office you have an impact on. So merchandising with allocation, as you're referring to, store capacities and those sorts of things, also something that came apparent once it was deployed.
Yeah, we had a RFID program steering committee, and it wasn't just IT and operations that we invited. We invited allocations, we invited sourcing, we invited, you know, our vendor management team. We enrolled our vendors. We made sure that they were there to be there with us. We went to the factories in Asia, in South America, all over wherever we make product. You know, we talked to the people in Israel that make our socks. They probably make your socks. Go talk to them. They are great partners. They want to do it. And one other thing, you know, who is a great partner is Avery, and I'm not just saying that because I'm looking at their name, but they really are. Like, they can manage a lot of the vendor conversations for you because they're already probably dealing with your vendors today, so it's super easy. So, but don't underestimate how to prime the whole pump for the supply chain. You can't just decide to, you know, turn on RFID in a store tomorrow. It takes a while or a season or two to flow all that product through and start it being RFID tagged.
Thank you. Mark?
Hi, my name is Marco. I'm from a retailer from small country in Portugal, Sporting Goods. I know all of you. And I'm in the middle between pilot and deploying. So open topics or concerns. One for Dr. Hardgrave. Which is the best way to convince the big retailers, the big producers like Adidas, Nike, Reebok, to adopt the RFID technology, because we are not vertical, so we have multi-brands, okay? This is one of the open topic. And the second one, to Toby and to Jonathan, what was your experience in terms of the change management during the deployment? Okay, thank you very much.
That was the note that I actually had written down right here, change management. Do you want to go first?
I can go first, yeah. So that's been big for us, change management, and bringing the stores on that journey. I think the way that was managed was by having change agents that are helping the stores throughout the deployment phase, so before the store goes live, and support them afterwards. But it is a big effort to bring that into the stores. I think on the positive note, if you sell the benefits well to the stores, if they do cycle counts today with a lot of effort, with a lot of pain that they are going through, I think the technology, if you show it and if you sell it into the stores with the benefit that it's got for them, maybe also when you then afterwards say, if that's deployed and you do something on top afterwards, I think we spoke about sequencing additional capabilities based on RFID, and you really sell the benefits to them, and you say you get different capabilities afterwards once it's deployed perfectly. I think that was a learning to sell the benefit, and it's making their lives easy at the end of the day. I think there was an earlier comment, I don't know, somebody last night at dinner said like RFID changed my life or something. So I think the benefit is big.
RFID has definitely changed a lot of people's lives in our stores. A lot of people who went through that on the RFID project now have been elevated into their careers. Our regional manager from New York, she was one of our change management people, and she was one of our trainers, and she went to a whole bunch of stores and sold them on RFID. And in fact, if you go to YouTube, there's a video that has at least 250 views, so it's super popular. But it's RFID. If you search RFID in MIT smart stores, it's actually our Lululemon internal video. And we spent $10,000 on that video, getting it professionally made. And it is probably the best 10 grand we ever spent on this, because the project was about 10 million Canadian for us, right? So you spend a lot of money, but to spend that money on the change management, because we showed that to all of our educators and said, RFID is coming. We had a big store manager conference. We showed the video there. We showed RFID not just there, but we also made a bunch of funny RFID videos too about people running around with the RFID handhelds in our stores. We had educators make a Shake It Off video with dancing to Taylor Swift, and that went viral across our company. But that video, it actually showed how RFID works and the power of it, and it actually had a little a person scanning, and then it would receive boxes, and it would show going into the back room, and it's a really cool little video. So I encourage you to check it out and steal from it. I mean, go for it. Use it for your projects. The biggest thing, from change management from our point of view is we got the buy-in early from our employees. We're really fortunate. Our employees are mostly millennials. They were iPod savvy, so like the devices were not difficult for them to use. They got the concept pretty well. They understood like the touchscreen reporting and everything like that. It was really, really easy for them to do it. But it's not that hard a concept to get, right? And the tools that are there, they all basically work, and it works pretty seamlessly. So you just work with your partners and learn from the greater RFID community too. I mean, that's like Bill said, there's lots of available knowledge, right? If you read the stuff that he's talking about and follow the steps, it'll work.
So on the question of how do you get your brand owners involved, that's a very important question. It's a key question because, as you go through a proof of concept and a pilot, and for those of you in the room who have not started on that journey, a good proof of concept and pilot are essential, right, to learn before you get ready to deploy this. And you can tag at the store, at the DC, as you're going through proof of concept and pilot. That's doable. That's not sustainable long term. For this to work, you've got to tag. Things have to be tagged at or near source of manufacturer. And for the national brands or international brands, right, the name brand products, we've seen several ways in which retailers have worked with their brands to tag. Most have been in a very collaborative, let's sit down and figure out where you need to tag, how much it's going to cost, and let's figure out how we share in that cost or how we build that into the price of the product that you're selling us. Others have taken a stronger approach of, well, if you want to sell through our stores, you're going to have to do this. The thing that I would suggest is that as you get ready to move from pilot to deployment is as you talk to each of these brands, you may find that they're already tagging for a couple of other retailers. And we had a really good session this morning. One of our good partners is GS1, and we work very closely with them. And we had a meeting this morning with a group of brand owners, talking about this very issue of the business case for the brand owners. And we're starting to work on a project that will look at what the ROI is for brand owners as they tag at source for them, right? And what we learned through that, and we've seen in previous discussions is, for example, one of the brand owners there said, look, if one retailer asks us to do this, we probably divert and tag, and it adds cost to us. Maybe 60 cents or something like that to divert it and do it. Again, that's just a hypothetical number. But if we tag at source, then it's an incremental cost. Instead of putting a price ticket on, we put an RFID tag on. Maybe now that's 3 or 4 cents, 5 cents, right, for the incremental. So it's a huge difference there. And for one of the brand owners, once they reach 30% of their volume of this particular SKU being tagged, then it paid just to tag it all. Right? Instead of going that 60 cents divert to the 3 or 4 cents incremental. So you may already have some of your brands that you sell that are tagging for one other retailer, and your adoption of RFID might put them over that tipping point to tag everything. So I would start with a conversation with the brands to see where they're at, what it takes for them to tag, and just start from that perspective. You may be surprised at how many are already tagging product.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi, Antonio from Brazil. A question for Dr. Hardgrave. When this technology will become very popular for supermarkets, what are the difficulties they are facing right now?
So if you're referring to just the traditional foodstuffs, canned food, boxed food, that type of thing in a supermarket, right? I think ultimately there's tremendous value in using RFID. If we think about the food safety and food quality, that is a huge, huge opportunity for RFID. And if we think about in terms of retail, food versus apparel, and no disrespect to our apparel retailers up here, but food just overwhelms, right, in size, that market. But it's a tough one. One, it's not an RF-friendly environment. The price points are much lower. You have metal and water and those things that we have to overcome. The good news is that the technology is advancing and it's really providing opportunities to be used in that environment. I think we're still quite a ways off of individual cans of corn, for example, having an RFID tag on it. I think what we'll find is that we'll start seeing the use of RFID in traditional supermarket supply chains at the pallet and case level, which would actually send us back to 2003 when we started this and we thought it was a pallet and case tool before we switched to apparel at the item level. So I think we'll see that first. I think we'll see some niche areas in the food area on fresh foods and those type of things where environmental sensors come into play, which gives us some indication of temperature and shock, vibration, humidity, those areas. But I think we're still several years away from seeing it in full scale, item level in the supermarket.
Yeah, I'll just add that we've seen a sort of an hypothesis around wastage of waste reduction around perishable items, in particular around the meat space,
Yeah.
as Dr. Hardgrave highlighted. Any last questions? Please, can we have the mic here? Or Lee's?
I'm surprised nobody's asked about Amazon Go, because I mean, you got it. No, they're being very tight-lipped about
Nice.
what that is, but there's RFID in there somewhere.
I'll come back to you. So please.
Yeah, Jukka Hieta from Nordic ID. We manufacture both fixed and handheld readers. So just would like to know your experience. What is a typical return on investment time for RFID deployment?
You're asking us?
Yes, panelists.
We think we've already paid for it.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
It depends how you count the sales and how you count the cost. I mean, the way we justified it to the FP&A team was on labor reduction, and that was about a 3-year ROI, but that had a 0% sales lift. So if you include anything higher than the 0%, especially the volumes that we're doing, I mean, we're a 2 billion, almost 2.7 plus billion retailer. So if you can bump those numbers up a few percent, you're covering, I mean, it only costs 10 million Canadian for our whole project, so.
That's great, thanks Jonathan. Typically, I mean, that's what we're seeing as well. Typically within a year, you would have a significant ROI. Just last question.
Hi, I'm Romulus from France. It's a more general question about consumers. Do you think that in the future some consumers may be wary of having all those microwaves on top of their heads in the shops, etc.?
It's actually a great question, and we went through a whole process with this. I mean, there's no microwaves being sent. It's a radio frequency just like your cell phone. Your cell phone probably doing way more damage, but the time the RFID tag gets counted at night when there's nobody in the store, there's only 2 people in the store, and they spend an hour doing it. And they've done lots of studies, and there's probably more of an environmental impact on the metal in the tag, really, but even that is so small you can just put it in the recycling, so, and it gets shredded up and it's managed. It's just like, it's almost like a staple. So yeah, we've kind of, that was one of our concerns as a brand that did not want to have that as an issue, and we don't feel like that's a worry.
Or even more, have all those unions on top of your head because they feel like the staff is working in an adverse environment or a polluted environment.
Yeah, if you go into any single one of our stores and you say, I'm going to take RFID away from you, they would probably kill you.
That's probably
go into any Lululemon anywhere in North America and tell me about RFID. It's the opposite reaction. They'll light up, their face will light up, and they will tell you like how bad it was before then.
That's an extremely powerful close. If you take RFID from the stores, it'll kill you. So with that, I'd like to thank the panelists. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you.